Welcome to Nexus Edge, the show that'll help you get an edge on the competition. My name is, of course, Turd Herder, and I'm your esteemed host of Nexus Edge. This is our preseason special for Season 7, and if this is your first time watching and tuning in, we want to welcome you to the show. Hopefully you'll have a good time and have some fun. Of course, today, as every day, I'm joined by my stupendous panel. Starting at the top, we have our regular panelist, Mr. Ziltoid.
Welcome back to another season, guys.
Season 7 and Season 2 of the show.
Yeah.
Next up, we have our other regular Nexus Edge panelist, Mr. Whoa No.
Whew, feels good to be home, boys.
Yeah. How were your off seasons, guys?
They were good, yeah. Quickly, Mongoose and I ran a for fun tournament, so that went pretty good. Got my butt kicked in a Hearthstone tournament that Murda put on. You were a part of that, Turd.
I am.
And been ripping it up in Stardew Valley, getting my farm on.
There you go. Ziltoid, what about you? How was your off season?
What off season? I'm not on a team.
Good answer. My off season, like you said, playing Hearthstone, playing WoW, playing basically every Blizzard game that isn't HOTS. So I'm ready to get back into it, get back into Season 7 and do some Nexus Edge. And
benchwarming.
What's that?
And benchwarming.
Oh, and benchwarming. Yeah, well, okay. Wow.
Personal attacks this early on.
I know. I was starting here, now I'm down here. But before we let the personal attacks go on for too long, someone who might as well be a regular guest panelist, Mr. Mongoose, stepping in the clutch, answering the call of duty, coming on the show. Mr. Mongoose, how are you?
You know, good. SNL does 5-timer jackets when you get to host for 5 times. So I'm expecting my 3-timer jacket.
You're never going to get another turn. You know that, right?
It's probably in the mail. I'll confirm it with Arthur now. Oh, well. Anyways, guys, thank you for joining us, Mr. Mongoose. It's been an absolute pleasure, or it is an absolute pleasure to have you here. Why don't you, I know you've been on here before, why don't you briefly introduce yourself again for those that may not know who you are?
I am a member of the NGS Board of Directors. I also handle all of the NGS patron stuff, like this lanyard, shameless plug, or this pin, shameless plug, and all the cool stuff that Turd Herder would have if it didn't get lost in the mail.
I wasn't going to bring it up if you weren't, but
and I also I'm heavily involved in placements, which we'll get to shortly.
Great. And so you compete on a team.
I do.
Which team is that?
Regen Blue.
All right. And your role, if I remember, is tank?
You are correct, sir.
I'm so good. And what's your favorite hero to play that isn't a tank?
Oh, actually, I've been on a quick match Zeratul kick lately. Anytime I'm playing quick match, it's Zeratul. So much so that now I'm actually running him in ranked when I'm not with my own team. So I'm on a Zeratul kick right now.
He lies. He does not play anything other than tanks.
Yeah.
ETC specifically.
Yeah. Wow. Getting some edge on your competition just by listening to the first 5 minutes here. And I did want to give a quick plug for our NGS Nexus Gaming Series Patreon, as Mongoose mentioned. Is that hat part of the Patreon?
No, this is actually an HGC hat that I've cleverly affixed an old school NGS logo to make it an NGS hat. But if I were to flip this off, it would be an HGC hat underneath.
In some ways, it's a metaphor for what we're doing anyway.
That's right. That's right.
Sorry, that was coming in a little hot. Sorry. Patreon, guys, if you don't know, it's at patreon.com/Heroes Nexus Gaming Series. I nailed it. I did it. You can also find links in our Discord. You can find links on our website, I presume. You can find links by asking any of us. We'll gladly send it to you. It's something that helps keep the lights on, so to speak. It helps fund the website. It helps fund certain charitable donations and things we'd like to do. I recently joined the Patreon committee. I'm really passionate about it. I really, really, really love what they're doing with the organization, and I implore everyone else to please join. So please take a look. At least take a look at it. See what you got. I know we have a bunch of great rewards, and those will be going out at the end of the season. So got a whole season to mull over, look at. Although we appreciate if you go ahead and become a Patreon soon. So there's that. How'd I do, Mongoose? Good?
You did great. And, for our friends like Wono, who weren't able to really enjoy the fruits of the labor before, we are finally getting past our Canadian shipping limitations. And soon, TM, we'll be announcing physical rewards eligible to Canada, which wasn't the case last season. So there you go.
My excitement is palpable.
Yeah, and we've been working on maybe trying to incorporate some things with this show. We'll see.
Also true. We'll see.
We'll see. Woo-hoo. Soon TM. Soon
Spoiler teaser.
Yeah, spoiler teaser. See,
you just the Wono face cup.
Yeah. Okay, put that
I
in
will
the Patreon
resub at a
committee
higher
Discord.
tier for that cup.
We can 100% do that.
Absolutely how we want it. Yep, I'm on board. But sort out the Canadian shipping thing too.
Yeah, there we go. All right, guys. Before we let the memes go on for too long, let's move into our first topic for the night. We're going to talk about placements. I know that we just got the announcement. We're recording on Tuesday, July 2nd. So this is fresh for us. The placements were announced this Sunday, June 30th. And overall, I'm really excited. I was unable to watch the Mead Hall live, but on my commute into work on Monday, watched it right away, watching the placements, really happy, really excited. What do you guys think? Ziltoid, what did you think?
About the Mead Hall?
Yeah, placements, Mead Hall, whatever. It's all good.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, what was most, I think the most exciting part of it is 96 teams signing up. I mean, that's it's a 9-team increase from last season.
I think that's right.
Which is better than most people are expecting, considering summer season and everything else. I mean, we were all thinking of different excuses on why it would be lower. But what I really like is the fact that we got such a nice flesh out of Heroic Division, which I think will actually go really well this season. And I feel like it was tough to play through Heroic last season for all the teams involved. Even the ones at the top and the ones at the bottom. There wasn't enough diversity. And I think going into the next season, Heroic is going to will hopefully become the big thing that people want to watch, the upper level of Heroes of the Storm that we've been, maybe to some degree kind of lacking since last season.
You got to put that sticker on the HGC. That's Heroic Division. Without further ado, I think we just get right into it. We have one of the placement men himself in Mongoose, so we figured it was a good time to ask some questions about placements. We had our Edge question channel blowing up this past couple days here while people from the community asked questions. I know some of the panelists have some questions for Mongoose, so let's just get right into it. Mongoose, this question is going to come from Valkymer. Probably no surprise there. What do you see that may have attributed to more Heroic and Division A teams this season?
I think the initial HGC announcement hit the highest tier teams the hardest, and understandably so. So I think there was an emotional reaction to that. People were upset and they were hurt. This is a game they're passionate about. This is something they had sunk a lot of time and energy into. And our signups were right after that. So I think a lot of those guys just kind of stepped away. And now with more time has gone by, I think some of those players are coming back, maybe not quite at the same, searching for professional level that there was before, because that doesn't quite exist in the same way, but stepping more back into a casually competitive fashion after we had a really great season last season. And they can see that the scene is healthy and it's thriving in its own way, separate from what Blizzard is doing. And I think that stability, combined with time to recover from the hurt of HGC being canceled, let some of these teams come back.
Absolutely. And I see that I jumped ahead of myself a little bit, so I want to take a step back.
Let's explain how placements work and all the other
We have
things.
editors, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jason. So
Yeah, he's going to be cutting some stuff.
we wanted to provide you with a platform first and foremost to explain what the placements were, why they matter, why people should kind of expect the division. Internally, we were calling this monologue Mongoose time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Go ahead. Here's your platform, man.
So placements are something people are passionate about and opinionated about, and they're really important. Without some kind of semblance of healthy placement, the competitive balance that makes the league healthy does not exist. This season, it was Ulysses and myself handled the kind of point position on it. Bickle and Wedge helped a lot as well. But a lot of the information came from the placement survey that the captains filled out, which is really important. I can't stress that enough. The more information we get, the more accurate these placements can be. And also, even after the fact, there were a number of teams that were kind of fringy or unsure about, and we just reached out to the captain and talked to them. Where do you guys think you're at? How are your scrim results going? What's your team like? And to try to get a feel for where the team would be most competitive, what division would challenge them the most, but also allow them to be successful. So how we do that is kind of two different paths. And the first path is returning teams are significantly easier to deal with. And the second path is new teams, which are significantly more difficult to deal with. So for what we did this season was a little different than last season. And a challenge this season was MMR is all over the place and frankly useless in a lot of cases. That's the result of Team League and Hero League ending and Storm League starting. So instead of having years of back data for Hero League and to a lesser extent Team League to build on, you have a month and a half worth of Storm League that's in preseason. Nobody really knows where anybody is at. And if you look at the MMRs of these teams, it's reflected in that. The high-end teams have the highest MMRs. The low-end teams have the lowest MMRs. But in the middle, it's honestly a convoluted mess. So of all of the information that we used in placements, MMR this season was used the least and was probably taken into account the least of all of that information.
Interesting.
For returning teams, the number one thing we used more than any other information was, where were you last season and what did you do? If you returned largely intact and you were competitive in the division you were at last season, you were probably going right back where you were. If you were one of the top 2 or 3 teams, you had a good shot at being promoted and vice versa. You know, we kind of have an unofficial promotion relegation system sort of built in. It's not, officially official, but if you're in first place in your division, you're probably going to get bumped up. And if you're in last place in your division, you're probably going to get bumped down. So
it's a tried and true system. I mean, they use that in British football leagues for literally forever.
100%.
I've been saying they should bring it to American football for years, or baseball. Oh my goodness. Sorry, sidetracked. Go ahead.
So the first thing we did was we found teams, and there were 7 of them, maybe 8, that were returning with their rosters 100% intact and that were about 500 in their divisions last season. Those became our baseline teams. They went right back where they were last season, and kind of everything ended up being compared to those teams. Those were our baseline teams. The next step that we did was we found teams that were 4 or 5 members returning, and then we placed them relative to where they were last season. Teams that had only 2 or 3 members returning, we almost put them in a new team category because 20 to 60% of your roster is significant. The other thing we did once we put them in is one of the questions in the surveys was, where do you think your team should be? And teams know themselves best. So, we operate on good faith. If you think your team is a Division C team, we're going to take that into account. So for the most part, when we had returning teams with rosters intact, agree with our placement of them, it was done. And the first pass that we did probably took care of 50 to 60% of the teams that registered, and we never looked at them again. Those were the ones that were fairly straightforward, where the returning rosters, given their placement last season, and where the team captain said he felt they were all agreed with each other, and they were put right where they needed to be. And then we got to either teams that were returning with a large number of new players or brand new teams. And with brand new teams or largely new teams, the number one thing we looked at was comparative data. And this was actually Heroes Lounge was really valuable for this because we had a lot of teams come over from Heroes Lounge. So if we had a team that we weren't familiar with players we weren't familiar with, we went in and looked if they came from Heroes Lounge, where were they in Heroes Lounge?
Yeah.
And now their divisions are much larger, so it's not a straight comparison. They do placements differently, so it's not a straight comparison. But it was more looking at who did they play and what were the results. And so if we have, team B and they were largely losing to B teams and they beat up on a couple of D teams and we're having close matches with C teams, well, turns out they're going to be a C team in NGS, and that was very helpful to do that. So using comparative data, not just Heroes Lounge, although that was a big one. We also looked at standings from the Zul'jin Distillery Invitational, and we reached out to captains for scrim results, and knowing from scrimming teams ourselves, kind of where they were at. And reaching out to the captains. Are you scrimming? Who are you scrimming? How's it going? Where do you guys feel like you're at? Are you in a good place? All of those things were taken into account. And there were a number of instances where we just honestly had a team right on the border and we simply asked.
Yeah.
So that led us to having probably 8 teams that we weren't quite sure where to put them.
To various degrees, yeah.
Right. And that's the last 8 teams that you spend the last 30% of the time you're spending on this is of the last 8 to 10 teams. And sometimes it comes down to, and in this season, just like last, it came down to sometimes a team where you're like, well, if we put them in Division B, they're going to struggle. And if we put them in Division C, they're going to be one of the top teams. And that doesn't mean they don't belong in either one of those divisions, because the answer is they belong in both, right? There's no hard line between these divisions. It's a sliding scale. A team that's low in A would be high in B. It's both. So sometimes it just comes down to, a little bit of instinct where they were at before. If we had a team that we maybe underplaced a little bit, we would tend to try to reward them a little bit this season and vice versa. But that's largely how placements were done. And then there were a couple teams where we basically had zero information, and those were basically the only time we looked at just MMR, because there were only 2 or 3 of them. And so at that point, we had the rest of the divisions fleshed out, and we could kind of ballpark where we think they would go. Yeah.
Well, very nice.
It sounds like only a couple of those ones. I think 2 or 3.
It sounds like, and I think everyone kind of intuitively knew this, especially the way that MMR is known in Heroes of the Storm, that there's no exact science to this. But it isn't necessarily fuzzy math either, right? So that's very encouraging, and I'm glad to have you on and talk about this because it's obviously something important. I guess kind of getting into another question here, and then I'll let the panelists ask some questions. Arrow asked in Edge questions. He said, well, what was the most difficult part of placements? Is it those teams that you're not quite sure where to place, or is there something else?
There's two things that are most difficult. One is the teams that you absolutely have no information on whatsoever. Those are really difficult to place. And the other one, and unfortunately there weren't too many of these, was teams that have, most teams tend to cluster their skill level together with maybe one outlier one way or the other. But there were a couple of teams that had a couple of really high-end players and a couple of really lower-tier players, and those teams are very difficult to place, right? So those were the most difficult ones, were the teams with a wide skill gap, especially if it's a team that doesn't have any established history to fall back on, if it's actually a new team.
So I think there's a team with a particularly well-known Orphea player.
That was one of them, yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know him.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. Yeah. Well, no. Why don't you ask Mongoose a couple questions here?
Yeah, Mongoose. I'll try and keep it quick because you did a really good job explaining and answered pretty much most of my initial thoughts and questions. But something you kind of touched on, I just want to kind of go over more with you, is how much stock do you place in those teams or those captains who are kind of insisting that they belong in a different division, maybe despite their MMR, despite previous placements?
I think that's 2 answers. Some teams want to challenge themselves, and if they want to place themselves in a higher division, most of the time we were okay with accommodating that. Now, you got to be careful because we don't want to just put them in a division to let them get beat up on. That's not fun for them, and it's not fair to the teams at the higher division either. They want the competition level to be equalized. So luckily, there weren't too many instances of disagreement where we put a team lower than they felt. More often than not, we put them where they thought they would be. What we're more cognizant of is teams wanting to stray lower than they need to be. I mean, everybody wants to win, there's no doubt, but something we try to keep in mind when we're doing this is a team with a losing record wasn't necessarily misplaced, right? There has to be a first place team and there has to be a last place team, and you can have a team that was 100% placed properly, and you will have a first place team and you will have a last place team. You're going to have teams with winning records and losing records. So just because you think a team is going to be at the lower end of the standings doesn't mean they don't belong in that division. So that's something we're try to be aware of. Even when those teams, we're putting them and we think that they're going to struggle, we want them to be competitive. That's the main thing. We don't want them to go in there and just get run out the game. That's no fun.
For sure.
Yeah. Makes sense. That's pretty much the only question I had, so I think I'll throw it over to Zill because I'm sure he's burning with a question or two.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and of course they could go too long, so I'm gonna try to keep it short. So first off, what were the biggest lessons you learned from the placement system from last season moving into this season, and what is your confidence level of how you guys think you did comparatively?
Great question. Last season to this season was very different for placements, mainly because of the MMR thing. Last season we started with the MMR first and adjusted from there. This season we started with where the teams are relative to where they were from last season and adjusted from there. MMR was the very last thing we looked at. Last season, MMR was the very first thing we looked at. It was a totally different approach, and it was needed because when we started to look at this, our master list of teams, it just in the middle, it didn't give us very much, to be honest. And part of that is the switch to Heroes Profile. They allowed us to do a lot of different things that we couldn't do with Heroes Profile or with Hot Slogs.
Yeah.
But they also calculate their MMR differently. And if you look at the division gaps this season, it's about 50 points of MMR. So how they calculate their MMR, just by the nature of it, puts these teams really close together. So those points kind of mean more from comparing Heroes Profile to Hot Slogs. But as a result of the uncertainty of Storm League and the switch over, MMR was kind of the last thing we looked at, as opposed to last season. It was the first thing we looked at.
I want to jump in here real quick since it's on topic. What was the adoption of Heroes Profile like among the community? Just real quick.
That was actually a big question mark. We weren't quite sure how the community would react to such a big change. Hot Slogs is so ingrained to the culture of Heroes for a long time. But it was fantastic. It was actually a really positive reaction with almost no pushback, which surprised me a little bit, to be honest. But the community was fantastic. And right after that, Hot Slogs kind of announced that they were stepping back support for Heroes of the Storm, which we didn't know at the time. The timing just happened to be kind of perfect.
Oh, I actually didn't know that was going on.
Yeah, okay. And we also have a relationship with Zamil, who's on Team Training Wheels, joined the team this season.
Yeah, and, I saw that.
Yeah, he works with us to give us exactly the information we need when we when we ping Heroes Profile for the information. It gives us exactly what we want, and he was able to tailor that to specifically what we were asking, which we didn't have with Hot Slogs. Hot Slogs would only give us game mode and MMR,
right?
But not games played. So like last season, we had Team League, Hero League, and Unranked, but it didn't matter if you had one game or 1,000 in each mode; they were all weighed equally. And that came in some cases that gave us some really weird skews that you didn't know unless you looked at the profile one by one. With Heroes Profile, he's allowed us to send number of games played back and weight that per game mode, so we can actually weight it by games played. So if you have 1,000 games in one and 100 in the other, the 1,000 is going to be weighted 10 times as high.
Perfect. Thank you for answering. I just wanted to get that in there. It seemed on topic. So go ahead, Zill.
I mean, it's sort of kind of wrapped it up. Hot Slogs, I feel, has been extremely unreliable as a source of getting really any kind of true information for the last pretty much since the end of HGC, and honestly even before that, because I don't think the transfer of ownership actually went very well, and the focus on actually keeping things up to date and actually working properly has been pretty lackluster for a while. So it's really nice to have something like API and to know the creator personally to that degree. Sort of like how we have Fallendrith, who kind of handles like a Soothsayer and Stats of the Storm and things like that as well. Like we didn't, the having that relationship with the content creator is a heck of a lot easier to be able to actually work with it and actually make it useful tools. So I think everyone should jump right onto HOTS API, can HOTS logs. You don't even need it anymore. Heroes Profile will be the better system for people to use into the future for just even judging your own personal stuff, because it's going to be better tailored for what we're trying to do.
Last season, we were really successful in placements. I was very happy with our placements overall. You're never going to be 100%, but I thought we really nailed it last season. There were very few big misses. And frankly, I don't think that will be the case this year. There's a third of the teams are new, so there's not as much data to come back with. Coupled with the uncertainty in MMR and the switch over the rank modes means we just have less information to work with and less reliable information to work with. So to go from arguably our best placement season ever and give us less reliable sources of information to make placement on, I don't think it's reasonable to expect it's going to be as good. Having said that, we did the best we could. We spent many, many hours talking about many, many different things and making tweaks all we can. And I think it will be good. I don't think there's any doubt about that, because I'm confident in the work that we did, but I don't think it will be as good as last season.
I don't know. I sort of disagree with that assessment, actually. I think the steps that you guys took to guarantee more of personally ensure by meeting the teams, by working with them, by doing that kind of stuff like that, might actually have been kind of even better at finding out where people certainly belong. I mean, I've looked through all the placements so far, and I can't pick out very many, if at all, any teams that I would say totally belong in separate divisions. I think everyone should be pretty happy with their current division placements and brackets at this point. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. And to answer the second question was with HOTS showing, their internal MMR. I'm really excited about that, but that needs to, from an NGS perspective, that needs to be done in a way in which we can harness that information. If the only way to utilize that information is by right-clicking on your player profile and looking at it, that doesn't do anything for us. We can't individually, one by one, go looking at hundreds of players, right? That doesn't work. It needs to be given to the community from an NGS perspective in a way that we can utilize that on a large scale. So I'm hoping that they do that. That will completely change how we do placements, because we will have the actual MMR data. Will we use comparative data still? Absolutely. Will we still look at a team and where they were in seasons past? Absolutely. But that will give us a confidence level in the MMR data that we've just simply never had before. So I'm hoping they give that to us in a way in which we can use it in a large scale.
Perfect. Guys, I think that wraps up this topic. Thank you for going over those placements. I know you talked about it once before on our episode or on our show, but this has been informative and great, and thank you again for going over it, agreeing to go over it. It's been awesome, so thank you. Go ahead.
I was going to say, absolutely. We want transparency. We know people want to know how this is done, so 100% my pleasure.
Perfect. Now, before we move on to our mega topic of the episode, and the topic you're probably all waiting for, got a couple announcements to make. So, first announcement, I'm going to go with the winner of the bracket challenge. So, it's been quite a while since the bracket was produced, disseminated, answered, and then the playoffs have taken place. So, it's our pleasure to announce that DeWitt is the winner of both the main bracket and the Division A bracket. So props to our, I think he's either the head writer or just a co-writer with Jackster. Props to him on having his finger on the pulse for the, you're laughing because my finger was not on the pulse. But yeah, props to him. Congratulations. Arthur and I will be in touch with you, and congratulations again. So
DeWitt, the Oracle, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. So I guess we got to take a look at his bracket this year before we do our playoffs special there. So, oh well.
There you go.
There you are. All right. And before we move on, the community member of the week. You boys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. It's Mr. Jakebot. Yeah. This was proposed by Mongoose. But I think we all agree that was an excellent choice for this week. We've had a lot of influx of new members, not only this past week, but in the off season, we've had an influx of people into our Discord. If you don't know Jakebot, he is one of the first people to say hello to whoever joins the Discord. I think he has a special greetings tag. I'm not sure anyone else has that. He's phenomenal. I don't even know if he competes on a team, and he still has this connection with this community. He also was the lead organizer in the Midsummer Nights Brawl tournament, which I think he took the lead and just kind of went with it the whole time. And I'm getting a message from our producer here. We're not quite sure if we're able to confirm or deny whether or not he's a bot or a human. So, Jakebot, thank you very much. I know you're a neighbor to the north for me. Not so north like the Canadian boys, but shout out to you. Good job. Keep up the good work in the community. Guys, anything to say about Jakebot and the Bracket Challenge winner?
Jakebot, the friendly AI. Friendliest AI we know.
Yeah. Like I said, can't confirm or deny. No one knows. I haven't seen him in person.
Not a real person, guys. Hashtag.
Yeah. Maybe. All right, guys. Let's get into it. We are going to go person by person, division by division. We're going to go into our preseason special, talking about who we think is going to be the most successful in the division. So, without further ado, Ziltoid, start us out. Go through it. What teams should we be looking at?
Well, I think we're going to have to start with Regen Smoke. They're clearly the favorites. They're going to take Heroic Division. There's no way it's not going to happen. Because, they're just that awesome. The next one will probably be in Division A, Regen Ghost, who is a newly formed team of some very good players, and we definitely hope to see them bring up the victory there in A Division. In B West, we have Regen Blue, of course, who will manage to clutch the title and be the absolute best in the West of B.
I'm recognizing a pattern to your choices, sir.
Just let the man finish.
Yeah.
We have Regen Phoenix, which is going to rise from the ashes of its former self and burn out all the competition. In C East, we're going to have Regen Anomaly anomalously take it. And then in C West, we're going to have Regen Galaxy for the Galaxy Brain strats that they're going to bring to the table and just march their way to victory. D East is going to be Regen Orlando because Florida. I don't know.
Your commitment to the meme is just phenomenal.
And then lastly, in D West, we will have Regen Bloom.
Regen Bloom. Blooming more victories than any other team.
Yep. That's it, guys. I'm tapped out. There's my predictions.
So some of those teams may actually
well done, Regen.
Top teams. Murda, we apologize. Do you have any other predictions you would like to make for any of these divisions?
Oh, jeez. But the rest are still boring. They're not nearly as interesting. So Club Gaming most likely
they're not as interesting as one organization winning all of them?
Of course not.
There you go.
Obviously. I am not secretly paid by Merida to say this. I literally am not actually paid by Merida to say this, but whatever.
Probably an important distinction to make.
Yeah,
there
probably. So Club Gaming probably takes Heroic Division.
Oh, we're going into it now. Okay.
Division A, probably Rewind. Division B West, the team that shall not be named. And if not them, then I don't know. Snowcover Lane could be actually a pretty big player this season. They look like they've leveled up their gameplay.
Division B West is tight.
Yeah, B West is actually insane. It's
tight.
Calling a winner there is going to be damn near impossible for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
B East, I don't know. It's going to be close. It's Winky Face in that division, right?
C East.
C East.
Oh, that's C East. Sorry. B East. Sorry, I kind of lost track of where I was. I mean, I'm probably going to give it to the real Ultimate Mosh Pit. These guys are returning from skipping last season, and should be, if they're up to snuff and practiced up, could be something that not a lot of teams are ready for in this division. It could be a big impact. Yeah, C East. It's a tough one. I would definitely say Winky Face. Yeah, I think Winky Face. That's right. Okay, so I forgot.
I like the pause for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
Winky Face picked up a couple really good players that I think is going to level up the squad quite a bit. I'm actually surprised to see them in the C East division, and I expect them to be quite good. But it is, they are still a new team, and they're going to have a lot of work to go in there, and that's I think they're going to be a pretty big contender. And C West, I'm going to have to give it to CCS, so Valkymer will stop blaming me in chat.
It's as good a reason as any, trust me.
So we can just put that to rest, and now he can include me in who believed. All right.
All right. Any predictions for D?
This is tough because a lot of these teams are kind of on the unknown, but I'm going to give it to House of Ches. I think that they should be able to be very competitive, if not the top team in D East. And in D West, again, another pretty stacked division. Kind of hard to really call who I want to say is going to pop out there. Full Meta Jacka had a really good run. Clouded Minds had a really good run. And that's about, I would say I'm going to go with Full Meta Jacket. And that's it for me.
Very nice.
Of my real bracket, I guess. Jeez, I don't want to call it
that. Your first one is real right here, where it counts. So, whoa, no. Why don't you break it down for us? Heroic through Division D West. What do you got for us?
I'm going to start this off by apologizing to teams new to NGS. I didn't pick a whole lot of you just because there's not much to be known. I tried to look through Heroes Lounge placements and Heroes Lounge, how the season went, just to see if I could kind of pick up on any ringer teams making the way over to NGS. But think of this just as your opportunity to prove just how wrong I am, because I love being wrong. Starting off in Heroic, I'm actually not taking the easy way out, and I'm giving it to Yikes S tier. I think CTV, while still a very strong team, they've had a number of roster shakeups, players leaving, and I think while they're still going to be strong, it leaves them in somewhat of a vulnerable position, and Yikes S tier is made up of quite a number of well-known amateur competitive players who are at the top of their game, so I think they could be a very strong contender to take the whole thing. Moving on to Division A, I gave it to Team Training Wheels. So Team Training Wheels was a team that was in Division B East last season, and they had kind of a middling season there, but they've had quite a new roster. They've dropped some members and added some very, very strong players to the team. So we already mentioned Zamil, looking for Team Porkchop, and Little Killer Pony are all very strong players. So I expect them to make a number of waves in Division A in addition to their existing Confused and Taco Cat players. B East, getting down into the B divisions, we already kind of talked about it. These are very packed, very close divisions. A lot of returning faces, a lot of faces kind of not necessarily new, but new to Division B, whether they moved up from C teams, dropped down from A teams. Very strong, very close divisions. For B East, I gave it to Minion Miners. So a pretty consistent team in Division B. They had a solid run last season. They didn't quite go all the way, but their roster has remained relatively intact. I know those guys put in a lot of work. They're strong players, and I expect them to kind of pull ahead in what should be a very tight division. Moving over to B West is a similar story. A lot of new faces, a lot of old faces, some returning teams, some new teams with old faces on them. I am liking the looks of another really solid returning team in Reborn Knights Red. So kind of similar situation to Minion Miners. Strong playoff team, had a good showing in the regular season. Didn't quite do as well as they expected it to in playoffs, but the entire roster is returning from last season, if I'm not mistaken, giving them kind of an edge because these guys have played and practiced together for a while. They've built those synergies that newer teams are just starting to get a hang of. So I think they should have a really strong run in Season 7. Moving over to C East, I give it to the team with possibly the best logo in C East, Die for Vision. So they get immediate +1 for that just stunning 6-pixel logo.
And they've actually had 2 logos, both of which incredible.
Already gone through 2 superb logos, hoping we get a couple more through the season, but we'll see how it goes. If I'm not mistaken, Die for Vision is the remnants of a Division B team from last season, Accel Esports.
Yes.
Maybe picked up some new players, played around in Heroes Lounge a bit. Moving down to C East, I think should be a really strong division for them. They didn't have the best season in Division B last season, but they still managed to win a couple games, and I think they made it into the playoffs even as the 8th seed. Yeah, so being a playoff team, moving down into Division C, I expect them to do really, really well in the division. Division C West is the first time I agree with Ziltoid, and sadly, it's not going to be the last time. Counterpick stupid. 2 reasons for that. Number 1 is #Wono believed.
And he still believes.
And number 2, I am absolutely terrified of Valkymer's 100-man roster that's just waiting in the wings to swoop in. They just have so many players that they can switch in and out depending on the situation that I don't know how any other team can even compare with that sort of manpower.
It's magic.
They could run their own division if they wanted to, but here they are putting all that talent into one singular team. Swooping down into D East and D West, these divisions were probably the toughest for me to call just because of so many new faces and so many new teams coming over. And honestly, that makes me really excited because we kind of talked about it when we were talking about placements earlier. We saw a lot of growth at the very top end in Heroic, but right there was a lot of growth in Division D at the bottom of the tier. That's not to say that these are bad teams or bad players, but definitely brings some interest to the division where we had a lot of the top contenders move up or switch teams. That being said, I'm going with 2 teams who are remaining in the divisions. So Division D East, I'm giving it to Calculated to Throw, who I fondly refer to as the Cat Slayers.
That's not fond at all.
No, but they were
both of you guys.
Cat killers.
Yeah, a new team for coming together with some old faces in Season 6, and they had a pretty decent run. Probably their claim to fame, though, was taking out Nexus Cats, who were favorites to win almost all of Division D playoffs in the first round.
Allegedly favorites, and allegedly beat us. Yeah.
And my last pick goes to Full Meta Jacket in D West. My other agreeance with Ziltoid. Like he said, they had a really strong showing in the last season. Made it to playoffs. I think they made it through the first round before getting struck out. So looking forward to seeing what those guys can bring to this season.
Perfect. Because Mongoose is our guest and he had a lot of time to talk, I'm going to go next. There you go. So let's start it out with Heroic. We actually picked 3 different teams for Heroic. I went with Amazing. A little bit behind the scenes. I was involved with a disciplinary committee. I don't want to say action because that sounds mean, but investigation regarding that team. And I did a little bit more research on them. They're a former NGS team and have players from a Heroes of the Dorm competition. the number 1 team in 2018. So that kind of synergy, that kind of big name power, I think is going to go very far. But that's not to discount Celeb Gaming or Yikes S tier. I think any of those teams. Couple teams maybe to watch from those divisions. Dread Pirates going up to Heroic. Shout out to those guys. Same with Nobo Esprouts. Obviously, there's some roster changes and whatnot, but
Nobo looks really strong now.
They looked really strong last season too.
And
I think they definitely got upgraded. Like they look good.
Oh yeah. So Heroic, I think Ziltoid said it best earlier today. This is premier Heroes of the Storm esports watching right here. This division, I'm excited.
You won't want to miss Heroic division games this
season. Whereas last season I felt like I missed way too many. Now I'm going to watch as many as I can here. This is great. Favorite logo? Miss most skill shots. It's a great logo. If I had to pick a team based on logo alone, I just love it. It's like the Miami Vice style going on there. Oh, perfect. Great. Division A, I also went with Rewind. Not just because analyst Ryokai is on the team, although that's why he picked his team.
You mean Analacaster?
Yeah, Analacaster. Ryokai.
That team's stacked.
It's really stacked, good. Yeah, and they were right on the cusp of going up into Heroic. And I think a team that the placement committee and just general committee thinks community can play in Heroic is not a team to discount in A. So I'm very excited to watch that. I also agree that Team Training Wheels is going to be a team to watch. Gilly Shark getting bumped.
Yeah.
And
I think they'll do well.
Yeah, I think they're going to do well too. I mean,
and the Halfwits. Halfwits got bumped up.
Oh, that's right. Okay. There you go. Favorite logo? Current, I think it might change. They seem to change their logos a lot. Once Bitten, Thrice Pie. They are riding the Phalendrith carry boat. That they Linehouse, I think Captain Linehouse, or Captain in Name Linehouse. I don't know how it is. Disclosed that earlier in the Discord. That was phenomenal. Keep up the good work, guys. I really like your logo work. Team B East. These B divisions are so tough to pick out here.
Yep.
This was the first one where I felt like I could pick any of the teams and probably be right, but I wound up going with Almost Legends Gold. So it's the first Almost Legends I think any of us have mentioned, but they're the former Division B East champion Hodis. I forgot what that stands for, but that's not important.
Heroes of the United States.
Heroes of the United States. They won the East, and they've been rebranded. So it's not a new team, although it's a new team name. I think they have a couple roster changes. I could be wrong. Really like that. Buff Chen is my logo pick for Division B East. Really liked that one. I'm really curious, and I don't know what you guys think. Almost Legends having 2 teams in one division. That's kind of interesting. I think Regen didn't do
does
that.
Too. Yeah.
Oh, do they?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird, but that seems interesting to me. I think that's going to cause friendly competition within the division. So maybe another pick is Almost Legends Ruby, and that's the OG roster. So who knows? Moving along, right along here. Division B West. My comment on the logos, guys. So, as Wono pointed out, you almost all have logos. Good. But some of the logos just need work, guys. We need better logos in Division B West. I went with Who Knows Gaming because the varying meme with all the question marks, favorite in-game meme.
So strong.
Oh, yeah, by far. Close runner-up would have to be Arrogant Nephilim. Sometimes I'm a sucker for the professional look, but I'm also like soak every lane SpongeBob letters. And it has, I just think that's pretty good too. So, but definitely Who Knows Gaming. Step up your logo game, B East. But as far as actual substantive analyst work here, I'm going with Regen Blue. I do think, yeah, it's not just because Mongoose is here, but
hey man, I picked them too.
Yeah, it's so close. This is again a division you could pick anyone here and probably not be wrong, or at least be like prima facie wrong, but there's a team on here, Logical Decision. I've never really heard of them, but they are. You guys have been together for.
All I heard was static.
Yeah, you guys have been around forever, and I think that's going to go very far. But so is Regen Blue, and you guys were rivals. Friendly rivals. Is that a good way to put it? Last season,
I think you got to be closer in the standings to be rivals. But
Well,
we were friendly. We were friendly. That's
friendly. Either way, I think you guys were rivals. You're
scrim partners, and we definitely work close together. And
Yeah,
we all know each other, so it's not like
those
share a lot of team notes and things.
Yeah. So there you go. Those are my picks. Regen Blue for B. So moving on right along to Division C East. I gave it to Die for Vision. And also favorite logo is Die for Vision. So good work on both fronts, guys. Die for Vision actually has I think it's named Ace.
Ace Casey?
Ace Casey. That's Mark Zombie, who is on the Nexus Cats, his brother. So we've actually scrimmed against them quite a few times. I think this roster is mostly the same. There's one subtraction from it that I know of from last season, but that's about it. Otherwise, they've been practicing pretty much since last season, pretty regularly. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do. Other honorable mentions here for Division C East. Duratan's Couch, Lubu, both teams that played up in Division B and are now down in Division C. So that's interesting. I do think, and this goes for both Division Cs here, Division C is going to have an issue with, there's a lot of teams that came up from D and a lot of teams that came down from B. But, obviously the placement committee thought that this was going to be good. I know the Nexus Cats, we wanted to be in Division C. Whether or not that took an impact, I don't know, but we want the challenge. It did. Yeah. Okay. It did.
Yeah, of course.
We wanted the challenge, even though we had a disappointing alleged loss in the playoffs last season. But
I think that's what's going to make it easier overall for people this season, is that you can do that and you can play up. And if you don't succeed to the extent that you are, you're at least pushing your game to the limit and trying to improve. And that's, I think, kind of what, those types of players, instead of just being placed somewhere they don't want to be, they can learn from that experience and it'll help them grow as teams. And I think that's a good environment. That's a good place good headspace to be in.
And I know for our team, we have we have the right mindset. I think we just want to play. We want to do our best. We want to grow. So, all right, moving right along, and I'll do this quickly because I think I'm running out of time here. It's Division C West, best logo, possibly in the series. Winston Churchill Manatees, big fan. And then I also picked Can't Counterpick Stupid. I believe Nexus Edge believes. We're believers. No, that isn't the only reason I picked them, but that is a very good reason. So I'll leave it at that. Favorite logo for Uthers and an Alex. Runner-up is Censored. I like it. Like it a lot. And for actual substantive winners here, Zul'jin Distillery, they took a step down from Division C. We played them in the Zul'jin tournament. They're looking real good, real strong. They scrim a lot. DeWitt is a very smart player, a very smart captain, so he knows what he's doing. Definitely a team to watch. Last but not least, Division D West, Randy Newman, with the close runner-up of the Yavapai County Youth Chess Swim Team for logos. Great work.
You're just a sucker for terrible music, aren't you?
Oh, what's Yavapai? Is that a music?
Randy Newman?
I think he was referring to Randy Newman.
I thought, I was like, what the heck is Yavapai Swim Team?
Yep.
No, I don't know.
Formerly Asmo Carey, if you want to talk about great logos from last season.
And formerly a different name that I won't mention here, but that was also a great name. And then for actual substance with Full Meta Jacket, honestly, I Clouded Minds and Full Meta Jacket are going to be, I think, the first and second place team in Division D West. Those guys are, they're going to be really good. I think they're going to clean house again. So that's my picks. I'm sticking to it. Mongoose.
All right, I'm going to show you Nexus Edge boys how to do a speed run here. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right.
We
Heroic, Celeb Gaming, hard to pick against them. However, last season Heroic was a snooze fest. This season it's going to be absolutely bonkers. And mark my words, one of these teams we don't know anything about is going to come up at the top of the standings and they're going to put on an absolute show. I'm picking a few loose screws because when Wipeout finds out I picked them, his head might explode. B East. I was going to pick Almost Legends Gold, but then Turd Herder took it away from me. So I don't want to pick the same thing as him. So instead, we're going to pick Reborn Knights Black. They're a veteran team. They've been around a long time. If they hit their stride, 100% they can win that division.
They got some new acquisitions, too, on their roster.
B West. Scary. Not just saying it because I'm there. I think this is absolutely the hardest division to pick. I think, like C East last season, this is going to be the most compelling division to watch. My pick is going to be Uncomfortably Numb, Famous, a former NGS team, a former NGS champion. Those guys coming back, they should be real good. C East calling for back-to-back championships from Boogan Squad, first D, now C. Off they go. C West.
That's a prediction.
I will not be bullied by Valcomer. I am not picking Valcomer. He can ping me all he wants because I can mute him.
Spare him. He knows not what he's saying.
And instead, we're going to welcome back Tickle Me Tassadar with another championship.
It's a hell of a pick. Go for it. Tickle Me Tassadar, solid team.
Going with Judo Chop and 4 Uthers and an Alex. These guys were the absolute warriors of NGS last season. They had a really rough go in B West, formerly Scorpius Eternum.
Yes.
They really got a lot of roster stability. We played them a little bit in Heroes Lounge. They're moving in the right direction. D East, watch out for 4 Uthers and an Alex. And rounding it out, I don't know how nobody picked Weenus and Clouded Minds in D West, a veteran team. They were going in the right direction last season, 100% going to be Clouded Minds, D West.
See, I kind of gave a half pick. I said,
I was going to say, Turd was like right there. He's like,
don't hedge your bets. They could do well, or they might do good.
Well, so I highlighted Full Meta Jacket, and then I read Clouded Minds. I was like, oh no, who's it going to be? But anyway, so since you didn't use all your time, we have a special guest coming in from the sky. Everyone, listen to your ears. It's our executive producer, Arthanow.
Howdy. So I did want to point out that last time someone picked a Tassadar themed team against Valcomer's team, it went poorly. So
you're just doubly in trouble, man.
I will say, Tickle Me Tassadar and Dat Taslo are not the same thing. Tickle Me Tassadar is a scary team.
But I'm with Mongoose here. I gotta give it to Tickle Me Tassadar and face the wrath of Valk. But
you got some angry questions coming your way for next episode.
Oh, I know. But I just wanted to pop in here and say that, and also I wanted to read off real quick, about 30 seconds quick, some of the predictions from our research team. So I got Wah, also known as Marsh Hole, on our.
You didn't do it right. That's Wah.
Wah. Is that better?
That's better.
So his predictions for Heroic, he picked Celeb Gaming. For B West, he has this out of order, I'm sorry. B West, he has Soak Every Lane. C East, Calculated Throw. C West, Tickle Me Tassadar. D East, Another Believer. And D East, he has House of Ches. And then C East, Calculated Throw. C West, nope, we already did that. It's all out of order. That's all he's got. That's all he's got. He didn't give me everything else. So
maybe that's fine.
Hey, no, that works for me. That was from Wah.
Any others?
And I got one from Key.
Okay.
The lead analyst, or head of research. So from Key, he is saying Celeb Gaming for Heroic. For Division A, Rewind. B East, he is saying Almost Legends Gold. He doesn't have anything for B West.
It's too close to call, that's why.
Oh, B West, he has Logical Decision.
No.
C East.
Region Blue. He said Region Blue.
C East, he has Die for Vision. A very popular pick, it seems, actually. C West, Can't Counterpick Stupid. D East, Team Rectum. And D West, Clouded Mind. So I just wanted to get the analysts in there because they actually have a lot of reasoning for a lot of that.
Probably more than me.
No, these documents are huge, and I'm probably doing them a disservice, not just reading it all. I'll post it somewhere.
Absolutely.
It's more important to let us meme on camera.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, you want to give the pick that wanted to make somebody's head explode the same amount of screen time as those reasoned, well-researched picks from our awesome analyst team.
All right. Moving right along, I think let's open it up to discussion since we kind of limited it while everyone was kind of going through their picks to the best we could. I'll start it out here because this was obviously something near and dear to my heart. What are your favorite new team logos, names and logos? Start it out, Whoa. What you got for us?
There's a lot of good new team names and logos out there. I am pretty partial to the Yavapai County Youth Chess and Swim team.
Yeah.
Both as a name and as a logo. They're doing a fantastic job, and I don't want them to change. I'm a fan of the show The Office, as I'm sure a lot of people out there are, so Yikes S Tier's logo is pretty solid. Having a quick look through. Once Bitten, Thrice Pie, they're not necessarily new, but they haven't played an NGS as of last season, and I do love the logo of the Falendrith boat carrying everyone else, just like he carries our analyst team.
Yeah. Exactly. Ziltoid, what about you? Any team names stand out to you?
Well, I sure like the In Too Deep Baby Shark Chasing the Fish.
Yeah.
If you're, have kids, you know that song very well.
Oh, even if you don't have kids.
Rush B, because of all the Carbot. You can't go wrong with Carbot.
Oh, yeah.
There was another one. I like the censored. Censored. Can't go further.
There you go. Mongoose, what about you?
4 for me. Probe 1 and Heroic.
Oh, yeah.
Love the StarCraft Star Wars crossover there. If you love Carbot, not only is Rush B's logo awesome, but Team Training Wheels with the custom Carbot Patreon team logo. If you haven't seen theirs, they have a great team logo. Who is the other one? There was Winston Churchill Manatees, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Is excellent. And what was there? There was one more. I'm sure as soon as I stop talking, it'll come to me, but I don't see it now. Nope, I'm going to stay with those.
Perfect. Wono.
Yes, sir.
What was your biggest problem with one of Ziltoid's picks?
What was my biggest problem with one of Ziltoid's picks? I'm trying to remember back. What even were Ziltoid's picks?
All right, Ziltoid, what was your biggest problem with Wono's pick?
In Too Deep, because I like the Baby Shark chasing.
No, well, I'm talking about like the actual picks, like the meaty picks.
The research picks.
He's being serious again now, Ziltoid.
Sorry.
Well, you have to let me know when you're deciding to be serious again.
Should I put on my serious glasses?
All right, how am I supposed to know? No, I don't really have any issues with the picks. The problem, and the cool thing about all of this is that it is super close. There is a lot of competition in the series, and all these early predictions are based on completely arbitrary information. So we're all shooting in the dark at this point based off of anything that we kind of currently know. So I think making any of those predictions for who's going to be at the top and is going to win is really, really anyone's guess at this point. I think what's going to be coolest about this season, more than any other one that I've seen before, is we've got such a good structured NGS. We should be able to view a good majority of these games live, and the casting aspect of it, being able to go back and watch all of these games and kind of see how the season unfolds, is going to be probably the best experience we've ever had in NGS so far.
Perfect. Mongoose, what about you? You got any problems with these guys' picks? My picks? I didn't.
No, and I'm going to hijack this question and go another way. I want to say welcome to the 30 new teams, because in this segment, it's really hard to pick any of them because we don't know any of them. Yeah. And almost assuredly, at least one of them is going to win their division.
Oh, right? They're going to prove us so wrong.
Totally. It's a third of the league that we just don't know anything about, and it's really exciting. Some of them are actually new teams, and some of them are kind of hybrid remnants of a couple teams that joined up to form a new team. So welcome to all of those guys. And the casting, always spectacular. I've noticed at least 2 or 3 new caster hopeful tags going out. So it's always fun each season. We have a couple of new casters to kind of come out of the woodworks. One of them here from last season. And it's always fun to watch those new casters show up. So not just the teams we get to enjoy, but new casting personalities as well. So
and I gotta say, I enjoyed casting all season. Last season, it was a great highlight. The biggest struggle I had is trying to figure out where to fit it in between all of my regular team practice. So
I feel you.
Barring those basic restrictions, I'm hoping to get the big boy pants on and do as much as I possibly can this season, because I think no one wants to miss games this season. It's all going to be super good.
Good thing you're not on a team this season, then, so you can devote all your time to casting, right, Deltoid?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, as a bench player, let me tell you, I will be casting.
Hey, that's actually
I usually try and do casting. My big thing is my real way, and then this the time I take for this usually is kind of plugged into where I would spend casting time and whatnot. But I do want to make an effort this season. I want to see if I can make actual caster. I've been caster hopeful for about 2 seasons now. I have the equipment.
Just get the setup. Once you're ready to go, it's easy. Clicks just like that. Even if you forget to change your overlays about every single time you cast.
Your Twitch chat will remind you without fail.
There you go.
And your delay will make sure you don't see it for about a minute. Well, 30 seconds now, right? That's the new rule?
30 seconds, new rule, yeah.
Oh, it's 30 seconds now?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Hot diggity dog.
Not nearly as punishing as 1 to 2 minutes, which is what most people were standard on.
Well, so Hearthstone, the league I'm in, does 10 minutes.
What?
It makes more 10 minutes.
What? Why?
It makes more sense.
I mean, because you're holding your cards and they
Yeah.
can remain in your hand for a really long time.
Certainly more than 1 to 2 minutes. So that makes sense.
But 10 minutes is like a whole match.
Yeah, you cannot interact with the crowd. It's very difficult. But sorry, getting distracted. Do you guys have any other more comments on the predictions that we have made? Any other comments about the league? I too want to echo what Wono and Mongoose were saying. New teams, very nice. I'm looking forward to watching all you guys. So, but anything else, guys?
No, I think just with so much new blood infused into NGS, so many teams made up of old faces and new faces, and the new placements this season, almost every division, it's almost impossible to call. I don't think there's going to be any runaway superstars, and if they are, they're probably just going to come out of nowhere. So look forward to a really close, really great season with a lot of good games coming up.
That's my biggest prediction on this stream. This season is going to be the best season of NGS we've ever had.
I'm willing to stand by that one too. I'm heckin' hyped, boys. So moving on, speaking of other things I'm heckin' hyped about, let's talk about the meta impact of 2 heroes that have come into NGS since the offseason. So just, what was it, last week, 2 weeks ago, we had Chen, and then before the end of playoffs, we had Anduin.
But he was banned for our playoffs, so
yeah, so we never got to see
first actual league games coming up soon that we see Anduin in play.
Perfect. So Wono, since you like talking, what do you think the impact of heroes is going to be in their respective roles?
Yeah, so starting it out with Chen, I know it's not a huge secret that we have
on and on and on.
It's deserved.
Sorry, go ahead.
A couple not so secret Chen mains lurking around NGS, so they couldn't be more excited to see Chen's rework that was announced and anticipated forever go come through. Having had some time to play with and against new Chen, I honestly don't think that he is top tier. I think he's in a better spot. I think he's a viable pick. I don't see him as like the number one, the OP offlaner, first pick, first ban status.
Right.
But I definitely think he is a solid addition to an already pretty well-rounded off-lane roster, and someone that a lot of teams can start working in when they need an off-lane with a little bit more dive, a little bit more sustain. Panda Pals does so much damage that you can really delete a backliner with a good timed dive with Panda Pals and 1 or 2 other members of your team. Moving over to Anduin, just because that's obviously the position I play, healer support.
Yep.
For anyone who knows me or has scrimmed me recently, you know I've been spamming Anduin. It's no secret. I am very happy with his kit and how he's performing. I think he's right up there with Anna and Tyrande as a top-tier healer. 2 very impactful ults, a really solid kit, well-rounded play. Look forward to a lot of frustration playing against his little yoink to save your enemies when you least expect them to get out. He's definitely
that little bastard trades better than Rhaegar.
And yeah, he does so much damage in healing if you just let him go.
So good at damage. It's stupid.
Just like you're in game, you're focusing a guy, and then Anduin's yoink. Sorry. It's just like, so frustrating.
Yeah, that was Blizzard's answer to support mains going, you can't fix stupid. They're like, oh yeah? Yeah, now.
Hold my beer. Yeah, hold my beer. So, all right, Wono is getting Anduin insta-bans against his team, so...
What team?
Yeah, we don't know. I don't hear it. Ziltoid, what do you think? Agree, disagree?
Oh, mostly agree. Chen, I do think that bastard does a lot of damage. Oh my god. He absolutely actually can pressure, like, before, like, most Chen matchups with another offlaner were just like Chen just sits there and drinks while the other offlaner does like literally whatever they want. They don't have to do anything to fight him. This is no longer the case. Good Chens can really pressure, like, top tier offlaners like Leoric and Lane. And it's more of a skill matchup in certain situations. Whereas, like, before, Leoric just won that lane. Like, there wasn't anything Chen could ever do because he could do enough damage to get through Leoric's healing, and he was big and fat, easy to slow, and hit with hammer and hit with the W. Like, he had time to jump and all that kind of stuff perfectly, and it just wasn't a good matchup for Chen. Like, he straight up could never win it. Now his wave clear is reasonable. It's still not like Malthael tier, it's still not Leoric tier, it's still not, certain heroes, but it is better than it was before, which allows him to be more flexible in the offlane. And the new rework on his level 10 ult, the Storm Ice or Storm Wind and Fire, is Storm Earth and Fire. Jesus, sorry, is really dangerous for backliners. So, like, if you
Panda Pals, right?
That's Panda Pals.
Yeah, that's the actual name, Panda Pals, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Panda Pals. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Panda Pals, the ultimate, where you split into 3 little pandas and you run around and you jump on top of stuff, you do a bunch of damage, you slow them all, and you shield yourself, is really nasty against most backline squishy targets. And it can be an extremely good pressure tool. So I like it. I think Blizzard nailed it on the head when it comes to hero balance, the rework. I think hit exactly where you want to be. Improving the playstyle of the hero, making it more relevant in the meta, but not overpowered, nothing that you can't deal with. And because Chen still suffers from plenty of the same, or a few of the same issues than he had before, which is he does not survive through focus fire very well, not through chain CC, any of that kind of stuff like that is still a major threat to him. So, you still have to play smart. As far as Anduin goes, I mean, I think even from day one, the biggest reason Anduin wasn't immediately like, oh my god, one of the top tier healers was people just didn't quite figure him out. I will say Anduin, I think, is is a higher execution healer. He definitely requires good knowledge of what builds work, how to make them work to the best, and good micromanagement between his abilities to do so. He's not by any means a simple play. It's kind of like what happened to Malfurion after the rework to him. He kind of went from a pretty AFK hero where he just drop Qs, drop Qs on everybody and hit Ws. But you didn't really even have to do much else than that. Like you didn't even have to Ws most of the time. New Malfurion requires quite a bit of micromanagement and communication with your team to really be good.
Spinning those plates.
So like, and Anduin, I feel, is very much the same way. You will suffer if you use him without some experience.
Yep.
And without some good coordination, but in coordinated competitive play, Anduin will be a top tier healer, and he will be banned out, and he will be first picked. It's going to happen this season, 100%. I would say across almost all divisions. I don't think you're not going to see him in like heroic or anything. He's going to be viable.
Perfect. Mongoose. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Largely, yeah. I'm a little higher on Chen, I think, than Wono is there. He's not first pick OP by any stretch, but I do think he's an above average solo laner.
Would you ever play him in the main tank? I'm just asking as a tank player. I don't know.
No.
Okay.
He can't live through
Under
it
no
on the front
circumstance
line.
would I play Chen in the main tank.
Okay. I honestly I haven't played with it, so I
Maybe
haven't
in a
really...
WAMP match.
Maybe in a WAMP match. That's true.
Storm League.
Yeah,
maybe.
but same thing, right? WAMP, Storm League.
Yeah.
He's
One's
got
a
above
total
average.
meme and one's WAMP.
Right. Exactly. He's got above average survivability in the right matchup. He can be a lane bully. But what he brings more than anything else that he didn't before is when he finally joins up with that team fight, he is maybe the biggest threat to a mobile, vulnerable backliner than any other solo laner, maybe except Imperius might be close, but that's the only one that's even in the neighborhood. He can absolutely get on a Tyrande and obliterate her, or a Vala, or a Silver, of any of those heroes that don't have a way to get away from him. And if the other team's frontline in particular doesn't kind of have a way to help deal with that, it can be a lot of trouble. Panda Pals is really problematic. As far as Anduin goes, in my mind, Ana and Anduin are the top two sports in the game, very closely followed by Tyrande. I don't think that Holy Word Salvation is going to have much of a spot in organized. Simply, it's too interruptible. But Light Bomb is absolutely bananas and an incredible tool to use in a coordinated environment. And you're going to see Anduin all over the place, picked and banned. I think it's going to be very rare that you don't see a match once people realize how strong he is, that he is not off the board in some manner before mid ban phase.
Perfect, guys. All right, I think that wraps up our discussion on meta discussion. Before I wrap up the show, though, I do want to do another quick shout out to the NGS Patreon. You can find that link at patreon.com/Heroes Nexus Gaming Series. Go ahead, take another look. Did want to just mention that. Also, shout out again to JakeBot, Community Member of the Week / couple weeks. So good on you. Check out Patreon. Guys, that's it. We've reached the end. It's the end of the show. I just want to say I'm incredibly hyped for Season 7. Incredibly excited for this show. Things that we're going to have on here. Few changes that I know we're going to be making and implementing over the next few weeks. I want to wish everyone, not only that's here, luck in their games, in their placements, in their matches, but I want to wish all of you, all the viewers, good luck on your matches. I hope you enjoy NGS as much as I do, and as much as I'm sure Ziltoid and Woe and Mongoose do. We wouldn't be here every day. We don't do this every day.
Every day.
We wouldn't be here
for 9 to 5.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here every week if we didn't truly enjoy what this league is, what this league does, and I'm just really excited. So hopefully you enjoyed our show on placements. If you disagree with us, maybe you think you have a better team logo than someone else, maybe you got better stats to back up your position, let us know about it. I know my DMs are always open. You can find me on Twitter and places like that. Feel free to comment and let me know what you guys think. I do want to give a quick shout out to our research analysts. We have a brand new team this season. Key is still heading it up. We've heard about Wag and Blank is there. We got a couple other guys. Himmy is still doing some stuff. Ryokai, of course. So shout out to you guys. Keep up the good work. I want to thank all the panelists. So let's close it out here. Wono, where can the people reach you and tell you about how wrong you are about your team placement?
You can find me on both Twitter and Twitch at WonoHots, or anywhere on the NGS Discord server. I am always lurking, I'm always watching, and sometimes commenting.
Watching and lurking. Ziltoid, where can the people find you?
At LT Ziltoid on Twitch, as well as twitch.tv/PSZiltoid. My YouTube channel as well, which is LD Ziltoid. Sorry, and so is my Twitch channel, LD Ziltoid. I did switch to LD Ziltoid for unknown reasons because I don't know what LD is. And that's it.
They're good letters.
And Discord, you can always bug me, or if you really feel like you need to.
There you go, Mongoose. How about where can the find it?
I don't actually work anymore. I only stare at the NGS Discord during the day. So that's the best place. Twitch.tv mongoose_22. And Twitter is the same thing, but 2 underscores. Otherwise, you'll get somebody else. And welcome to all the new teams and returning players. And if you're interested in casting, we always need more of those. So don't be shy.
Perfect. And you can find me. Oh boy, it's been a while since I've done this. Turd Herder Hots on Twitter. I am Turd Herder on Twitch. I've been doing some streaming there, so check me out. I also have a YouTube, but Discord. Always in Discord. I will be happy to answer any questions, chat up, whatever I can. Feel free to talk about it. So, guys, this is Turd Herder here saying adios, amigos. Remember to stay safe in the Nexus. Take your hots to the edge.